VR in Star Citizen. Everybody in the world who makes videos about Star Citizen has been sent a Pimax Crystal Super, and I am late to the party, but I did get one. But this video is going to be slightly different because we're going to be comparing it to the Quest 2, which I originally had. And so when Star Citizen released VR, the experimental mode, I chucked that on and had a good play around with it. And just in general, VR, it's something everybody, I think, should experience in Star Citizen. The scale of the ships is crazy. But the Quest 2 is very old now and not like a high-end headset in any way. So when Pimax offered to send me this, I said, oh, obviously. But then, you know me, I like to test and compare things. I thought, well, wouldn't it be quite interesting to actually get a Quest 3 and compare that? And so that's what we've got. We've got the Quest 2, 3, and the Pimax Crystal Super. And let me tell you, this doesn't necessarily go the way that you might think. Pimax aren't necessarily going to like this video, but I think for people who are in Star Citizen considering VR, I think there's some important things to say in here that will hopefully help you decide maybe which direction you go. Anyway, let's get cracking. The Quest 2, first of all, like I said, I tested this out. It's old, it's got a pretty low resolution, and what I found with the Quest 2 is that, yes, it's amazing to just play Star Citizen in VR, but there's some issues. So getting the sweet spot right for the Quest 2, so the place where your eyes are in exactly the right place, I found really, really tricky. And just generally the clarity of the image that you're looking at is pretty poor. It's just, there's blurriness everywhere. I mean, yeah, it is an older headset. You wouldn't necessarily expect it to be amazing. I mean, setting up is fairly straightforward. Most people now are recommending using Virtual Desktop, this program that you can buy on your Quest, and it makes it fairly straightforward. You set it up, you're doing it wirelessly, you don't have to have anything plugged in. It's good, and overall it's about 500 grams the headset, so it's not too heavy, so the weight of it isn't a problem, which we will talk about with the Pimax in a bit. So that was my first experience with VR. But when I picked up the Quest 3, it felt like a pretty massive step up. This was the first time I thought, oh, this technology actually is closer to being like mainstream ready than I really thought. The Quest 3 is great. Now, there is a Quest 3S, which is a Quest 2 with some different things, but this is the actual Quest 3. And so it's got 30% more pixels, which is good because, again, the Quest 2 felt pretty low resolution. Not PlayStation 2 levels, but it feels pretty, when you're used to playing Star Citizen on a 4K monitor, the downgrade to going to the Quest 2, it felt pretty substantial. And still, the Quest 3 isn't anywhere near as sharp as we'll talk about with the Pimax in a minute. But the Quest 3, you just throw the thing on your head and it works pretty well. The sweet spot, the ability to just kind of get it on and it works is much better than the Quest 2. And the clarity at the edges of the screen, it's just miles better. The overall package, everything that Meta have done with the Quest 3 is much improved over the Quest 2. And so I put this on and I thought, wow, this is great. I'm really looking forward to what the Pimax scenario is going to be like. Again, we'll get into that in a second. But the thing with this is, it's also pretty cheap to pick this up. So I got this is the 128 gigabyte model, which isn't ideal if you're planning to play games that you download from the Meta store or whatever. But if you're just using this for PC VR, where you plug it into your PC or connect to your PC, well, you don't care about the storage. So for £250, this is a pretty good experience. And obviously £250 is a lot cheaper than the Pimax, which we'll show you in a minute. Again, Virtual Desktop makes this pretty easy to set up. I loved my experience with the Quest 3. I was pretty blown away by how much better it was than the Quest 2. Again, just the whole package, the image quality overall, wherever you look, whatever you're doing, it's pretty great. Now, the Pimax Crystal Super. So, first things first, this is now nearly 15 million pixels per eye, which is compared to 4.5 pixels per eye for the Quest 3 and 3.5 for the Quest 2. So, pixels-wise and sharpness-wise, it's on an absolute, complete different level. But, and here's where this probably isn't what Pimax want me to tell you. Overall, I would actually say that the Pimax doesn't have as good overall image quality as the Quest 3. Why is that? Well, similar to the Quest 2, I found the sweet spot, getting my eyes in the right place, so that I'm not having to kind of adjust all the time. I found that really tricky. I think the sweet spot was quite small for this model. It felt like I just kept needing to adjust to try to get things right. And I mean, the head strap itself, it's got a really good strap, and you tighten it and it feels really clamped to your head. It's really good, but still, that sweet spot seemed really, the window was really small. But the bigger issue is definitely the clarity at the edges of the display. So in Star Citizen, the chat and some of the HUD elements are right at the edge of the screen. And with the Pimax Crystal Super, they were pretty unreadable. Now, I spent a lot of time trying to solve this, but as I researched, I found that effectively the model I have, so Pimax offered to send a couple of different models. I got the 57 ppd optical engine, I think they call it. And this particular version, it's known for these characteristics. Now, I did watch this amazing video that I'll link below that covers all the different Pimax models in much more detail than I could ever do. But in summary, the 57 ppd model has this smaller sweet spot in the middle, and again, this edge to edge clarity stuff, it's all pretty unreadable right at the edge of your vision. And so actually, as crazy as it would be to say, considering the price of the Pimax Crystal Super, I would take the Quest 3's overall picture quality every day of the week. Now, other things to note, because like I said, that's just the 57 ppd. There are other models that would potentially be better from the image quality side of things, but that's not the only issue really for Star Citizen specifically. The fans, they can get a little loud as the headset heats up. It's noticeable, but I think potentially a lot of people will put their own headphones on and use those instead of the basic ones that you get with the Pimax Crystal Super. Like I said before, the strap is great, feels really stuck to your head. Having it on is just fine. And I would imagine if you're playing something like a racing game, like a sim racer, where you're basically mostly focused forward, trying to drive, maybe looking at mirrors at the side, but mostly your head is forward, I would imagine the weight would be absolutely fine. But in Star Citizen, in a cockpit, when a ship flies past you and you turn your head quickly to track the target, you can really feel the kind of 900-ish grams of the Pimax compared to the 500 grams of the Quest models. The momentum of the headset itself, as you turn, it kind of pulls you along with it. It's quite jarring, and I think, as we'll talk about in a bit, there's another Pimax model that they really should have sent out to everybody instead of this one, but we'll come back to that in a minute. And also, whilst we're talking about the problems, we mentioned all those extra pixels. Well, my system with a RTX 5080 and DLSS upscaling cranked to the absolute max, it just couldn't handle this at its native resolution. And so you have to turn down the resolution in the Pimax software to get Star Citizen to run at all decently. Now, I think ultimately, this is for 5090s, and 6090s probably would have been even better when we get the next generation. I don't think there's an AMD card on the market that could run this at full resolution. And yeah, maybe the 4090 would be okay, but the 5080 can't cut it at full resolution. So when you spent all this money for a really high resolution headset and you can't actually use the full resolution, well, it starts to become a strange decision to make in some ways. The thing with Star Citizen compared to most VR games, again, the recommendations on Pimax's website for graphics cards are pretty low, but I don't think they're anticipating a game quite like Star Citizen, which is throwing so much at you graphically and is so immersive. Fidelity is amazing. Yeah, it really bizarrely, I mean, the first time where I've said a 5090 is probably necessary for Star Citizen. And even then, I think the 5090 would chug in some parts of the game if you're playing with the full 4K per eye. The weird thing with this is that in some ways, I don't really understand why Pimax have made such a big push with this particular model, the Crystal Super. They've sent this out to so many different YouTubers, streamers. It's everywhere. I mean, this is probably like the 50th video that somebody's made on this. Hopefully this adds a bit of extra context comparing it to the other two, but maybe they just wanted to get their name out there. We were talking about this on stream and kind think it was Captain Tombstone, one of the amazing members, he was saying before all that big marketing push, he didn't even know who Pimax were. So maybe it's working from that side of things. But for me, I just cannot recommend the Crystal Super itself for Star Citizen. The weight factor alone, I just think it wouldn't be good of me or right of me to say, oh, go for it, buy this one. Like it's just too heavy, I think, for anything combat related in space. I just don't think anybody would really enjoy using it at this weight. But like I said, Pimax do actually, and this is where it's all a bit bizarre, they do sell a newer headset, their new flagship, which is much lighter than the Quests as well. It's the Dream Air, and it costs more. But again, we're at the sort of figures that we're only talking real high-end users here. We're talking the whales, effectively. The people who've got plenty of money and they're looking for the absolute best. So the price difference between the Crystal Super and the Dream Air is probably irrelevant to most of those people. But I think really this is what they should have sent out to everybody. I mean, CIG's own VR wizard, Sylvan, he was trying this out at CES in a Pimax video. And I think this is the model that they should have sent out to all the different streamers and YouTubers, whatever. Maybe they just didn't have enough to send out to everybody. I don't know. It's new, and you can pre-order it, but you're not going to be able to get one straight away. There is a delay to a certain extent with this, but it's a bizarre situation. The obvious elephant in the room with all this VR stuff is Valve's Steam Frame. Now, it's not really clear when that's going to come out, and pricing is still unknown. But looking at the specs, it's actually probably closer to a competitor with the Quest 3 than these top-end Pimax models. So at least in terms of resolution. So even though I'm not recommending the Pimax Crystal Super, I do think that if you're looking for a high-end VR headset and you've got a 5090 and loads of money, it is probably worth looking into the Dream Air. It is top end and priced accordingly. And Pimax, if you're watching this, well, sorry, this probably wasn't the video you were hoping that I would make, but if you'd like to send me the Dream Air, well, I think that'd probably be a good call for you as a company. I think there is a decent chance that that is actually the high-end headset the Star Citizen community is looking for.